What up, y'all? It's your guy Dawson from D&D TV. Thank you for rating, commenting, and subscribing. Everybody who's donated, those of you all who will, you know I appreciate it. All that information is in the description box below. Also, make sure you go over to my other YouTube channel, Dawson Speaks TV. Make sure you subscribe over there. And when you subscribe, hit that little bell next to the subscribe button so you get notifications when I drop a new video. Now let's get into this topic. Alright, y'all, now this story does come out of Florida. Yes, it does come out of my state, but you all know I don't discriminate. The only thing I'm here to do is elevate and hopefully cultivate a healthier mental state so that we all may be able to coexist with one another while we're here on Earth. So don't get too comfortable because I will be approaching stories that come from your state soon. Now, this story happened at the end of January, but the family went to the news outlets in February, and it's one of the stories that I had on deck to do because after I saw the picture of this little girl and read and did more research on this funeral home, which is Shawn Johnson's Funeral Home and Cremation Services, I was just appalled at how not only they treated this family, but other people who came out on social media and talked about how Shawn Johnson's Funeral Home and Cremation Services handled their family as well. And this story of Reasia Washington, she passed away at the end of January on a family vacation in Georgia. The mother of Reasia Washington and her father went to Shawn Johnson's Funeral Home and Cremation Service in Riviera Beach, Florida, and they wanted Shawn Johnson to get the body from Georgia back to their hometown, which she did do. But what happened after that has left the family completely devastated. According to the family, Shawn Johnson's Funeral Home and Cremation Services did not embalm or refrigerate the girl's body, allowing it to severely decompose during the 11 days the funeral home had the body. According to Reasia's mother, she says, "When I saw her face, it looked like someone had thrown acid on her or she was pushed into a fire and just left to burn." Take a breath. Did y'all hear that? And there are a lot of people who, before this situation, when other families had come out and talk about Shawn Johnson's Funeral Home and Cremation Services, a lot of people told people on social media that they were hating on Shawn Johnson because Shawn Johnson was a black woman and she was doing her thing and this was a black business in that area and she was not allowing the other funeral homes to, take the black people's money, and she was really standing up for black people in this area and that we all should do business with our black people. You know how everybody tells us that. But when our black people are not providing a service that is worthy of me paying, first of all, and this is how I'm going to be treated, no, I will take my business elsewhere. Because a lot of you in the Riviera Beach area, you all talked bad about a lot of people who talked against Shawn Johnson's Funeral Home and Cremation Services because you all thought everybody was hating on her because she was a black woman doing her thing. No, that's not why people were hating on her. And after Reasia's case opened and the news media got hold to this case, other people in that area came out and talked about how Shawn Johnson did their family members. Now, I understand, people wanted to support people who look like them and everything, but I'm with Zora Neale Hurston. All of my skin folks are not my kin folks, and you're not going to push me in a corner and make me feel bad because I'm not supporting people who look like me when they're not offering services that are going to be worthy of me paying them. Now, in this area in West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and in Broward, Shawn Johnson's Funeral Home and Cremation Services, they are known for having these so-called funeral parties or these kind of like club-like celebrations where she could have your relatives. If she had one person propped up in a car, she designs the caskets different kinds of ways. She does all of this type of stuff to make it look like a party or a red carpet event. Now, in West Palm Beach, Shawn Johnson is known by a lot of names, and people call her aka the funeral home diva, aka the mortician mom, and this one really gonna get y'all, aka the Beyonce of funerals. Are you serious? The Beyonce of funerals? And all of this is because of the type of funerals that she has within this area. Now, I have nothing against the people who have gone to her to have her funeral home do their loved one's funeral. I have nothing against y'all family, and I'm not talking bad about y'all people. I'm talking about me and my family right now. There is no way that my family would come to me and say, "You know what, Dawson, Uncle Rick passed away. And you know Uncle Rick loved a barbecue. And we were just thinking for his funeral, wouldn't it be a good idea in order to remember Uncle Rick that we had Uncle Rick propped up with some sunglasses on behind a barbecue pit? Oh no, not at this funeral, not in my family, not on my watch will Uncle Rick be propped up behind a barbecue pit with some sunglasses on. Do you know how traumatic that would be? For not only the kids, but for us. Because I know for me, if I'm getting up late at night and that's on my mind and I'm going to use the bathroom and it's a dark house and I see something over in the corner and I'm like, oh hell, is that Uncle Rick propped up behind? I mean, come on now. I understand people trying to go all out their way in funerals and stuff like that, but y'all, come on. That is some hood mess. Now, if you have done that with your family members, now this ain't for you. You know, God bless you and, you know, rest their souls. But I'm talking about for me and my family. All of that extra stuff to me is just not needed. But Shawn Johnson specialized in this, and this is why a lot of people went to her for her services, or lack thereof, in that area. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you all watch these news clippings, and I will be back with the rest of my commentary. And you all know me, I'm Dawson. I won't hold back.
Funeral home in Riviera Beach facing serious allegations tonight after a family claims it failed to preserve an 11-year-old girl's body.
A complaint is filed with the state after loved ones say the girl's body was barely recognizable. WPTV News Channel 5's Ryan Hughes is outside the funeral home in Riviera with the disturbing claims.
Loved ones telling us the 11-year-old's body was severely decomposed and they had to cancel a viewing. They are accusing the funeral home of negligence, and tonight the state confirming there is an open investigation.
How are we gonna get closure with my grandbaby?
The family of Riesia, Washington was getting ready to say their final goodbyes, but they claimed the 11-year-old's body was badly decomposed and almost unrecognizable right before her memorial service.
My daughter's body was deteriorated beyond recognition. Beyond recognition, her skin has come off her body.
Loved ones say the 5th grader died on January 22nd after an asthma attack in Georgia. The family hired Shawn Johnson Funeral and Cremation Services in Riviera Beach, but Riesia's uncle, who was also an attorney, filed a complaint with the state saying her body was not embalmed or refrigerated properly.
The family just wants answers. Why was our loved one not properly taken care of? Why was her body not properly preserved?
The Riviera Beach spokesperson also tells WPTV for the past 4 months, the funeral home has operated without a valid license. The state confirming it has an open investigation into Shawn Johnson Funeral and Cremation Services, but would not specify why.
We trusted her. How many other families? How many other families have went through this and not knowing? How many?
And Riesia's uncle telling us he plans to hold a press conference out here Thursday morning announcing that the family plans to file a lawsuit. We tried reaching out to the owner of the funeral home, Shawn Johnson, multiple times, but she was unavailable for comment. In Riviera Beach, Ryan Hughes, WPTV.
Right now at 5, a mother in mourning after her daughter's sudden passing says she's faced even more pain at the hands of a funeral home.
I was just ready to go and call the police and get someone here to see what I had just saw, because that was just unreal.
Tonight, what she plans to do following the death of her daughter.
That mother says her daughter's body was unrecognizable.
Yeah, her story is a difficult one to hear. CBS 4's Joe Murray has it for us tonight, live from the Fort Lauderdale facility where the funeral home says the girl's body was taken. Joan?
Well, Elliot and Rutabaga, this story has so many spokes to it, but let me tell you about this place in Fort Lauderdale, Abco. It's a cremation service, and according to the family, this 11-year-old the funeral home told them that this 11-year-old was transported here. Well, it turns out Abco now has told them that this girl was never here for preserving.
When I saw her face, it looked like someone had threw acid on her, or she was pushed into a fire and just left to burn.
Those were the gruesome last images Ebony Morgan says she has of her 11-year-old daughter. She claims had a botched burial.
She was a sweet girl. She used to always, on the way home in the car, she talked to her dad about how her day was, help him take his work shoes off. Like, we don't have that anymore. And My kids, they just stand in their sister's doorway. Like, they don't even go on that side of the house anymore.
Ebony Morgan's daughter, Reasia Washington, died on vacation in Georgia from an asthma attack. Her parents said they paid Sean Johnson Funeral Home of Riviera Beach to preserve the body, drive her back to Florida, and arrange a proper service. Instead, they said the body was never embalmed or refrigerated.
Their explanation was we were trying to save the family money, therefore we brought the body back without having it embalmed in Georgia, to which the family had no knowledge of.
We're here to make sure that justice is upheld, to make sure that the laws that we have in this state are enforced, because we have laws that regulate this exact type of behavior.
Lawyers have filed a complaint with the state and reported what happened to local police. Neither the funeral home or their attorney responded to our request for a response.
What we got was a mummified body that wasn't presentable enough for a viewing. What we got was excuses. What we got were lies. What we got were, it's not our fault she came from Georgia like that.
Again, no comment from the funeral home at this point. A lawsuit has been filed. As for the 11-year-old girl, they're having an autopsy done, and they say she will be cremated at a later date. In Fort Lauderdale, Joan Murray, CBS 4 News.
All right, Joan, thank you for that. Now
Wow. All right, y'all, let's go in. Now, first of all, I want to give my condolences out to the family and friends of Reasia Washington who had to go through this, and to the people in that community who had to watch this whole thing play out in the media and who still are talking about this particular issue. Now, I have to add that Reasia's body was moved to another funeral home in Broward County, and the family went ahead with a memorial service without the body because they said it was so badly decomposed. Now, the attorney for the funeral home says it has been open. It still is open for business, despite the fact that it has locked the doors for the past couple of days. The attorney said that death threats have been made against Sean Johnson and her children since the story broke. For her safety, the doors of the funeral home are locked. Now, I certainly don't want any harm, physical harm or anything, to come to Sean Johnson, her employees, or her children or family members. But I do want Sean Johnson to come out and to have a press conference, talk with this family, and to let everyone in South Florida know what went wrong and why was this child's body looking like this. Now, many people in that area and in South Florida have looked up Sean Johnson and her employees and found that some of them, and including Sean Johnson, they don't have the credentials to be practicing in the funeral home business. And my thing to Sean Johnson and her employees is this. I understand why you and many others get in the funeral home business. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Everyone has their hands somewhat in the funeral home industry. And since you know that you can make money, and we know that, and people who do anything with funeral home, hospice, things where you're interacting with people, when it comes to death, you have to really want to do that because it's in you to do. It has to be in you to want to work with people, especially in the funeral home industry. The money is going to come because guess what? Between our birth date and everything in between, we all will have a death date. But the way to go about doing this, Sean Johnson, is to build a relationship with families and people in the community and providing excellent services every time you have a funeral. Not just sometime, not where you have people saying, oh, well, she did good with my family members here. And then you have another group of people saying, well, when my aunt's body came in the funeral home, we had to have a closed casket because the smell of her body, it permeated throughout the church. There are people online who talked about that when it came to your funeral home. Now, this definitely has to be rectified, and it's not something that you want to go and hide away and do behind closed doors. You need to talk about this particular situation in the media, Sean, especially if you want to continue with your funeral home, because now your reputation will precede you. So I know people who are in the funeral home industry. I had to help bury one of my clients and have had to assist with funeral homes in the past. People will tell you in the funeral home industry, you don't get a do-over. What happens at the funeral, this is what happens. You're going to have to pay. There are some funeral homes that will work with you, that will work out stuff because they know, hey, everybody's going to die. Sometimes it catches us on the blind side. Some people don't have the money up front. Some people don't, people will work with you. So since you know that money eventually will come in, Sean, you don't have to give people horrible service. And you don't have to tell the lawyers or the family, according to what the lawyer said in the news conference, that because the family didn't have a lot of money, you were trying to work with them. Now, when I hear you're trying to work with them, that does not include not refrigerating the body, embalming the body. That's just like basic 101 funeral home. Now, you have to do that, or you should do that. To me, that's just my opinion. Now, working with somebody will be like, in a case where I had to bury a client, we were trying to, come up with money because she didn't have, insurance and all this kind of stuff. So we had to come up with money for my client to be buried. The funeral home worked with us. They said, okay, you don't have money to have a funeral. Why don't we just have, a memorial for this client and her children? They could come to the funeral home. You don't have to pay to take the body from the funeral home to the church and to the graveyard and all this stuff. We could just cut down on that, nor do we have to, bury her. We can cremate her. That cut back on so much. So that's what I think the news people and people in general may think about when you say you're trying to help the family. Not that you're not going to embalm the body or refrigerate the body. How will the body be available for viewing if you don't do that? And that goes back to many things that people have said on social media. And I want all of you to go on Facebook and look up Sean Johnson's Funeral Home and Cremation Services and look at all the comments and people who did live videos about their family members and stuff who experienced things with this funeral home. Listen to those people. One woman talked about how her aunt's body, I guess you didn't embalm her aunt's body properly because that's the smell of her aunt's body. She said it smelled like a rotten sore. Now, come on, Sean. If you're going to provide the black community or in the funeral industry, people in that area a service, you have to make sure you're doing it with excellence, especially when you're calling yourself the mortician mom, the funeral home diva, and AKA the Beyonce of funerals. You, first of all, need to give this family an apology. Then you need to come in front of the news cameras and to explain to South Florida what happened to Rheasia Washington's body while she was in your care. Now, I'm off of this subject. I've said everything I wanted to say. I want to hear what my subscribers have to say about this. Go off in the comments, say exactly what you want to say. And again, my prayers and condolences go out to the family and friends of Rheasia Washington. Until next time, it's your guy Dawson. Take care of yourself and each other. Peace.